Okay, still scouting that spot in Northwest PA that's been logged out. Right now I am walking the west edge of the field, and this is where the property began being logged at, and this is also a transition. It's a transition from the field into this logged out area. And a common mistake I think a lot of people make, and that I know I made when I was younger, is I might be driving down the road and see these deer coming out into this field, or I could be glassing this spot on purpose and see these deer coming out in this field, and I get all excited and come running down in here and set up a stand on the edge of this field, and then I wonder why they never end up coming out. And the reason is because a lot of times they're bedding somewhere within sight of that field, and I see this a lot in farm country. Right up here, there's two big trails coming out of a bedding area, and they come together right here. And the one trail goes off into that pile of treetops, and then the other trail goes off into that tangle of treetops, and that is probably about a third of an acre right there. With, there's might be 50-60 beds, and there's beds all through there and deer crop all through there. And there wasn't a lot of rubs in there, although there are rubs coming into it. So I'm thinking that there are bucks bedding there as well as does. But one of the ways you can tell that this is the trails that they're coming out into the field is usually when you have a bedding area. The trails that are most beaten down coming out of the bedding area are the trails that they're leaving on. They a lot of times, not always, but they're gonna usually, especially mature deer, are gonna circle into the wind and come into the bed. So depending on which way the wind's blowing from, it depends on where they come from into the bedding area. But when they're walking out of there, in a situation like this, I don't think it's a wind-specific bed. They're going to bed up here, and they're going to watch that food source, and that's where they're going. Probably a good spot to hunt in early season. And so what you need to do is find these areas, find these bedding areas that are on the edge of these fields ahead of time, so that you know that you can't, how you have to approach that setup. You can still hunt these deer coming out in the field if you're on private property and the deer aren't pressured that bad, but you need to make sure that you come in, in a way that they can't see you or smell you. So you can wait for, in this situation, a south wind, because these deer are going to come out of this bedding area regardless of which way the wind's blowing, come down these trails where they meet into one, and then they split back off into two, and they run along the low point of this ridge, and then they come out down in the bottom down there. And the reason why they do that is in the evening, when the wind dies down, all the thermals are going to pull down to those low spots, and that's why you see them deer coming into these spots like this in the evening in the fields. It's almost always a low spot. So just something to keep in mind. Just because you see the deer coming out into a field, don't think it's a slam dunk. Look at the whole situation first, and then set up accordingly. I mean, make sure your access is